Of course, been following the Auditor-General's report there for the 2018-2019 financial year, and those audit outcomes have been quite critical. He's been unpacking it, of course, with his team there in the process right now. Let's cross on over back to that and perhaps get more word on the audit outcomes for the 2019 financial year. And
say, Council, here is our recommendation with regards to the steps that you must take to fix that finance department. Firstly, the person heading that finance department, if that is what comes out of the material irregularity analysis, has not necessarily been trained technically in the discipline of financial management, then it might just be a waste of time to continue that person in that job, because all others in other departments know how to process transactions in the system. If the one who's supposed to exercise proper oversight over money is not properly trained, maybe there could be an answer there to say that we need someone else to head the finance department. Because if this is a bridge for the transactions of external parties as well as those that are internally generated, if you don't remove that person, then you're not protected. And I think there are a variety of answers that will come when we interact with the leadership, and I think that they will also see for themselves when certain things are happening regardless of commitments being made. So I think that will be the key one as far as the PAA amendment is concerned. There are a couple of cases of known officials who have transgressed in a number of municipalities that we have followed, particularly in some media. I remember one case in Oudtshoorn, for example, where a municipal manager linked to, if you look at the case was drawing attention to specific provisions of the Municipal Finance Management Act transgressions, which got this particular individual to have to answer in a court. But as we know it, the reality is that those are exceptional situations where you find many of these officials having to answer for the transgressions. But for the greater part, in a number of other municipalities, certain investigations start, and because of issues of instability and other related matters, you never see that particular investigation to its conclusion. And that particular effort is wasted because nothing really happens when you don't conclude on the entire investigation. Let me hand over to you, Mangariman, to deal with that other one.
Thank you very much, AG. Claudia, I have articulated 4 areas which we will start with to enforce accountability, which were directly emanating from the presentation of the AG in trying to respond to how will, in his concluding remarks now, he spoke about how will council be brought to a realization of what has transpired and accountability being sought. 2, the overseeing of what the audit plans that will be developed by municipalities is supposed to be followed through. In case that does not happen, we are suggesting to National Treasury that they must look into implementing Section 216 of the Constitution, which empowers them to say until the municipality has begun to deal with corrective measures of what have been identified by the Auditor-General, their equitable share must be withheld. And the plan must be clear, proper, followed through, and provinces will be assisting in this. The subjecting what the AG also has spoken about in terms of assessment of skills that is currently there in those municipalities. Can we retrain? Is that skill possessed at all, so that we are able to say accountability and recurring of issues that have already been determined does not happen again. So it's a basket type of interventions that will force us as municipalities to be accountable for the funds that we are allocated. It's not a one silver bullet. Unfortunately, it's pocket of challenges that we have at municipal level. Some are skills related, some are where systems are deliberately ignored and action or consequences have to be taken. Some is capacity, where you will have to capacitate your MPEX, for example, to be able to play proper oversight and counsel to hold responsible the officials whom they employ to be able to ensure that accountability happens. I think that's what we will be able to do. The same issue which Talia raises on consultants, it's embedded on the assessment of what do we have. I articulated it earlier on. I said, if you do this assessment, you will exactly know. You zoom into this municipality individually, 257 of them, what is happening in your staff complement in finance? Do you have a chief financial officer? Yes. Why are you utilizing a consultant? What is the value of the consultant? What are we going to bring in which will be developmental as we cut out the utilization of consultants? As the AG has indicated, in their verification, there was very little value that was derived by municipalities from the utilization of consultants. But we may also have to understand that, for example, the AG make an example of a municipality in Northern Cape where they are unable to attract the skill which is supposed to assist them to make or compile proper annual financial statement. So we will have to find a mixed bucket of issues on how we could be able, of solutions around, of how we could be able to resolve the different issues that are happening or challenges that are faced by municipalities. Thank you, Africa.
Sorry, if I may just close one point which the chair has raised on the consultants' spend. You know, if you look at the general report, and I'll just refer you to page 122 of the report once you are able to get to it. We've got a schedule in each of the 9 provinces, like I said, which is a schedule of consulting costs for accounting, financial and asset management, and other internal control services rendered. Now, let's just take an example in light of the question that you raised, where you asked what were the other solutions that could be proposed in terms of this consulting expenditure. Maybe on that page 122, if you look at a municipality number 13, and that is Madibeng in the northwest. Madibeng, according to its audit opinion, is disclaimed. Madibeng was disclaimed for the last 4 years, every single year. Disclaimed, meaning that the auditors are not able to arrive at an audit opinion because the books were messy. This is now a situation that had obtained in the last 4 years consecutively. We are now in 2018-2019, which is year 5. Madibeng has got a budget in its finance department of 33.6 million for the year. This is a budget for the people who are employed to carry out financial management activities. So that's the total finance department salary according to the financial statements. But Madibeng for this year attracted consultants to come and help them in the finance department for an amount in total of 35.4 million. An amount paid to the consultants which is even higher than the total salary budget of the finance department. Now the question that we are raising here is leadership of the institution. Have a look at what this is about. Why is it that even your finance department is costing less than is being paid to this third-party external service provider who may have been providing this service even in the previous 4 years where you were none the wiser about the issues of transparency of financial management? Here comes another bill of 35.4 million towards an external service provider. And the questions that we are flagging with this are, maybe you can do without that expenditure if you control it at leadership level, because you already have a history of 4 years of getting the same result anyway. Nobody ever comes out wiser in Madibeng as to what is happening to the transparent management of your finances. But surely should you be happy to pay an extra 35 million rand towards somebody who's going to tell you nothing again? I think that is the critical question, and it's a leadership question. It's a question that the people that are in council at Madibeng ought to answer, so that the next time around when the CFO wants to engage the services of an external service provider, there can first be a conversation about it and an understanding as to what is it that you are going to pay for this thing. And maybe there can also be an upper limit, because the leadership of a council can do that and say, we are already budgeting 33.6 million for staff in your department. This year, you are allowed to spend up to X amount if you need the services of an external service provider. So that you don't come up at the end of the financial year and you've got a huge bill like this, but it's like taking your car for a service and then you have to tow it back after you spend on the service of this vehicle. So that's the critical issue. It's not about the Auditor-General. There's no appetite for consultants. The point is, we are all required to handle our finances and our activities in the public sector efficiently, economically, and effectively. And this is one of the key tests just in this isolated area. I'm not even talking about other services, just this one, which is about financial control. And this is, Madibeng is in Brits. It's not in a place where you can find other people that can identify which one is a debit, which one is a credit, before they commit themselves to an entry in their accounting records. Surely you can. Firestone and other people operate from there, which means that for them to run their businesses, they are able to do that. Agriculture businesses, tourism businesses, it's not far from Pretoria. Thank you.
Thanks. Maybe to pick up on the point that both SALGA President and AG raised, the concluding point of the AG with regard to consultants, I think that the issue that becomes very evident is about the effective deployment of resources. So what's become evident from the report of the AG is that instead of deploying the resources in addressing the controls in the municipality, what tends to happen is the resources are deployed to sort out the reporting and preparing the financial statements. Now, if the controls are wrong, then preparing the statements is not going to solve your problem. You have to sort out the controls, which makes it easier to deal with reporting. And I think that's where the disjuncture is. It's about the effective deployment of resources to ensure that you can achieve the intended results. And the intended results are not only to submit annual financial statements, but to ensure that they are corroborated by the necessary evidence and records of controls and accountability in the system. The other point I thought I should raise is a question that was raised by Claudia. Is it possible to change? My opinion is it is possible to change. We do have evidence.
All right, we're going to come out of that briefing then by the Auditor-General there with regards to the 2018-2019 financial outcomes, audit outcomes, that is, of certain municipalities. We'll continue to give you more news as well then, of course, at the top of the hour, and we'll be back right here on Point. Don't go anywhere.